Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to cover Bob Dylan's live albums from the 70s. I could have done all of his live albums, but I thought I'd just cover the 70s as there's quite a lot to get through, and I'm not sure if I wanted to do an individual review on every single one. There's some great stuff, first thing to be said. And let's get going with the first one, which was recorded in January 1974, and this was the Before the Flood comeback tour of Bob Dylan with the band. And it was actually just after, the concerts were the same time as Planet Waves, the new Bob Dylan album, had come out, but true to form, Bob didn't really perform many of the tracks from that album, maybe a couple to begin with, but none of them ended up on here. But very strong performances and really a sense of renaissance that Bob was back after 4 years or 4 or 5 years out of the limelight completely. The Isle of Wight in August 69 and Bangladesh August 71 were two of his only concert appearances, and he'd been kind of hanging out with the family and recording laid-back sporadic albums such as Self-Portrait, New Morning, and the Dylan album, which was a collection of outtakes, and then the soundtrack for Billy the Kid, Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid, and then Planet Waves, which was a decent album, as I say, not featured on here, but good choice of material, and Bob and the band are on superb form. There's no extras on this album, it's just the gatefold with the pictures of the band, but they're on great form and good choice of material. Mainly it has to be said, harking back to his glory days, so there's not too many tracks from there's no tracks from New Morning or Self-Portrait or Planet Waves, but we open with Blonde on Blonde classic, what most likely you go your way and I'll go mine, and Bob's screaming the lyrics quite hilariously, and Robbie Robertson and co on great form. Lay Lady Lay is covered from Nashville Skyline, but you wouldn't recognise it if you'd only heard the original. This is a very much rockier version, and Bob again screaming the lyrics quite effectively, but it's not quite the treatment this song deserves perhaps in concert, but it's an interesting treatment. You've got stuff from Blonde on Blonde, Rainy Day Woman, Knocking on Heaven's Door from Billy the Kid album, It Ain't Me, the 64 track Ballad of the Thin Man from Highway 61, then you've got a whole lot of band tracks on side 2, and then side 3, Don't Think Twice from Freewheeling, Just Like a Woman from Blonde on Blonde, It's Alright Ma from Bringing It All Back Home, then a few more band tracks. Then All Along the Watchtower from John Wesley Harding, Highway 61 title track, Like a Rolling Stone from that same album, and Blowing in the Wind. So it's not quite a greatest hits, but it's about as close as Bob came to it in his career, thinking about it, as normally when he does a concert he intermingles the hits or the well-known songs with a lot of more obscure album tracks, to his credit, but on this particular occasion there was a bit of nostalgia associated with the concert, and there was nothing wrong with that. After all, it had been a while. Maybe he was a bit nervous about coming back, but this album was a big seller, number 3 in the US, number 8 in the UK, released June the 20th, 74, and recorded in January and February of that year in Madison Square Garden, Seattle, Oakland, California, and Los Angeles. So that was that, very successful album with the band. And then I'm going to do this chronologically, although this didn't come out until 2002. I got the date when it came out, November 26th, 2002. This is a double CD of the Rolling Thunder review, and to me this is the highlight of Bob's live performances of the 70s. It's just brilliant. I haven't managed to track this down on vinyl. I'm not sure if it exists at all, actually. I would love to have it, but it's just a superb document to that tour, and we all know he made it into a film, Ronaldo and Clara, which is unreleased on DVD, and I don't think I've ever seen it in its totality. It's a 3 or 4 hour movie, which perhaps tests one's patience. But the good news is Martin Scorsese is doing a film with Bob, or about Bob's Rolling Thunder tour, and it's due to come out this year. So we're really looking forward to that, because he did a great job with George Harrison, Living in the Material World, or a pretty decent job anyway. So I think this tour needs even more recognition. I'm not sure what footage is available from the 75 tour, but the sound quality of this, and he's picking, unlike the Before the Flood album, he's picking stuff from Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You from Nashville Skyline, then Romance in Durango and Isis from Desire, and then several tracks from Blood on the Track, Simple Twist of Fate. What else? Is that the only one? From Tangled Up in Blue, and then Oh Sister and Hurricane from Desire, which was the current album at the time of the tour, or just after the tour, in the middle of the tour actually, because I think Desire was January 76, and this tour straddled 75, 76, and by all accounts the first concerts captured on here were superior to the 76, but we'll come to that. I'm not sure if the jury's completely in on that one. Sarah is featured again from Desire, so actually you've got more or less the whole of the Desire album played on here, with the exception of Black Diamond Bay I can't find. Hurricane's on here. Mozambique is not on here. And then I Shall Be Released is here, and Joan Baez is duetting with him on a couple of tracks, and this is the Bootleg Series Volume 5, I think it was, and one of the very best, so brilliant. And then what did actually get released at the time was this live album, September 13th, 76. Got to 17 in the US, 3 in the UK. Interesting how the UK, it's done a little better. And this, my original version of this actually comes with a lyric sheet, which the new vinyl doesn't. So that was a bit disappointing. This is my new vinyl. It's a great album. I love it. I mean, it wasn't particularly well reviewed at the time, and people thought it was at the fag end of the tour. I think it's a little unfair. There's a lot of musicians on here which we don't know exactly who played on which track. I know Mick Ronson is credited on Maggies Farm, according to Wikipedia. Sorry, they are credited here, but it doesn't say on which track. It says guitars Mick Ronson, T-Bone Burnett, Stephen Souls, David Mansfield. Bass Rob Stoner, who would also play bass on Street Legal. Drums Howard Wyeth, Gary Burke. Strings Scarlett Rivera, the violinist from the Desire album. Piano Howard Wyeth, T-Bone Burnett. Backing vocals Stephen Souls, Rob Stoner. So, produced by Daniel DeVito and Bob Dylan. Doesn't say what I think this was recorded in May 76. I'm not sure where, in the US somewhere. And then you can get. So it's a decent album, and the highlights for me would be his superb rollicking version of Shelter from the Storm, where he just transforms what is already a brilliant acoustic track into a rock and roll setting, and very successfully. Lay Lady Lay is done similar fashion to Before the Flood. Maggie's Farm is a rollicking version. Stuck Inside a Mobile is okay. Not a brilliant version. I Threw It All Away again. He's doing a slightly dubious live version of a classic song, in my opinion, and screaming the lyrics, whereas it was a very tender ballad on Nashville Skyline. Same could be said of One Too Many Mornings, although that's got a certain power about it. And Oh Sister is an absolute highlight on this album, and so is Idiot Wind. I think around this tour, the most powerful stuff is the contemporary stuff, the stuff from Desire and the stuff from Blood on the Tracks, because that's what he's most recently been writing. That's where his mindset was. That's where his composing style was. So it's all very well to do the oldies, but I think when this album is doing Shelter from the Storm and Oh Sister and Idiot Wind, it's at its peak. So that's my opinion. And then this is quite an interesting DVD. I'm not sure if it's official or a semi-bootleg, but the Rolling Stone Review recorded Fort Collins, Colorado, USA, 1976, and a similar track listing to Hard Rain, although Deportees is on here, which I think was a duet with Joan Baez. I Pity the Poor Immigrant from John Wesley Harding is on here, very nice, I think that's another duet. And then Shelter from the Storm. So you can see these tracks on YouTube. I think that there's pretty good quality from what I can remember, so check them out. Mozambique is on here, brilliant live version. Should have made the Hard Rain album, favourite of mine from Desire, and Knocking on Heaven's Door is from here, so that's a decent DVD. And then we've got this album from 1978, Budokan, which is a bit of a curate's egg. It was a big hit, number 13, well, again, more successful in the UK, number 4, number 13 in the US. Recorded February the 28th and March the 1st, Budokan, Tokyo, released 23rd of April 79, so more than a year later, by which time Bob had kind of moved on, really, but and he was pretty close to recording Slow Train Coming. But anyway, some musicians are street legal for the most part. And I'll give Bob credit, and it's a nice packaging. I'll give Bob credit, he was trying to come up with different versions of his songs, and he's done that his entire career. This is a Japanese pressing, actually, so you get the English words, which is very nice, and it was one of the first albums I picked up, and then you get the words in Japanese for the Japanese fans, so that's nice. I remember a friend of mine, James Stewart, was raving about this album at school, and I couldn't quite get into it at the time, and it took me a few more years before I got into Bob. This is not that accessible if you're first coming to Bob Dylan through this album, but once you know his work, it's very interesting to go back to this and see, versions of Simple Twist of Fate, or Shelter from the Storm, other Is Your Love in Vain from Street Legal. Some reggae, some tracks are taken in a reggae format, which is interesting. So it's not my favourite live album, but it's decent, and there's also another goodie in here, which I'll show you. A poster. There we go. And the blue tack stains on the back because it was obviously on my wall at school for a while. So always nice to get goodies. I'm not sure if that just came in the Japanese pressing or that was in all of the pressings, but that's nice. Then what else do we have? Well, that was the last of the official releases in the 70s. This little gem here has a CD and a DVD of some tracks, including a TV spot which Bob did with his live band for Gotta Serve Somebody, I Believe in You, and When You're Gonna Wake Up from 79. And I'm pretty sure it's live. It could be over a backing track, but it looks kind of live. Fred Tackett, Jim Keltner, Bob Dylan, I forget the keyboardist, but it's the 79 band. Or not with Mark Knopfler, who was on the album, but the rest of the guys from the Saved album. Fred Tackett was on Saved. I don't think he was on Slow Train Coming, but it's that period band which appeared superbly on here on the live tour. And again, this just about qualifies for this review because the concert material here is 1979 to 81, so some of it's not quite 70s, but you've just got brilliant versions of Slow Train, recorded November 16th, 79. Gotta Serve Somebody, a very strong version of that. November 15th, 79. Is that the only tracks recorded in 79? Covenant Woman also recorded in 79. What Can I Do For You? Most of it is 80 or 81 after that. Saving Grace also 79. So I think I've reviewed this already, and no, I have, and I highly recommend this Trouble No More bootleg series number 13. And obviously since then we've had the Blood on the Tracks one, but that was the penultimate one. And so that concludes my review of Bob Dylan live in the 70s. A lot of great stuff, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.